Alright, apologies for the extremely extended delay. I was in a bit of emotional hit stun for the first day after the announcement. I had other plans that day I made beforehand, and naturally Capcom dropped this bombshell on me 2 days before Sunbreak came out, so now I've been working on this video while trying to fit in time to play that while I'm at it. There is one thing I want to say first, though. Normally I save the thanks for the outro, but my god. You all made that initial video blow up way more than I could have ever expected. And I'd be lying if I said that seeing you all pop into the comments the day the game was announced to celebrate didn't choke me up a little. Thank you all so much for your support. It really, truly means the world to me. But enough of the preamble. You didn't come here to hear me ramble on, and I certainly didn't sit down to record just to ramble on either. It's time for me to finally talk about the announcement of
Megaman Battle Network Legacy Collection.
Megaman Battle Network Legacy Collection was announced at the... Jesus. No wonder I'm out of breath recording shit like this. Alright, here we go. The June 2022 Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, and it completely blindsided everyone. The EN Direct sandwiched it between Super Bomberman R2 and Pac-Man World Repack early on, but the JP Direct went as far as giving it a dedicated segment, complete with its own title card way later in the show. It even gets its own remix of AC/DC Town that we don't hear in any of the other coverage, and I'm almost positive it was arranged just for that trailer. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that, and maybe even point me in the direction of where else it was, because I want to give that a closer listen. Anyway, the collection features the typical art gallery and music player modes, as well as the return of this god-awful filter from the X collection, which you can, thankfully, turn off and forget exists, like the one in the X collection. It's currently slated for 2023 in English, Japanese, and Chinese, a first for the series. And all of that is incredible. I've wanted a Battle Network collection for forever, and this announcement sent me from barely awake in bed to bouncing off the walls screaming in excitement. I've rewatched every trailer ad nauseum, I've been blaring Koki's Battle Network remixes from the rooftops, and I still genuinely cannot believe that this is real. That said, it just can't be a Mega Man related announcement without some caveats involved. A few things in the trailers rubbed people that looked closely enough the wrong way, and there's an admittedly glaring omission in the collection's product information given the series in question. So much how I tried to make heads or tails of the Battle Network situation before it got announced, it's only fitting that I give the topic a revisit and address the current concerns people have now that the collection is confirmed. Mind you though, much like that video, this isn't me confirming or denying anything that Capcom hasn't already. I'm just using public information and the insight of other community members in front of me to infer what could be going on, rather than jumping to any conclusions too quickly. And the easiest place to start is a subject I wasn't expecting to come up at all, honestly. There was a surprising amount of backlash regarding the lack of an Xbox release, to the point that I'm pretty sure no Xbox was trending because of Mega Man? What world do we live in? That said, as much as people probably don't want to hear this, it's probably more trouble than it's worth for Capcom to bring it over. I mean, if I was them and looked at ZRG being the lowest selling collection that released on the least popular console in Japan of the big three, come on now. I can't imagine that it'd give them much confidence in putting the other handheld Megaman games on Xbox. Mind you, I'm not saying that Zero ZX sold badly, it just didn't perform nearly as well as Classic or X, but Capcom may not see it the same way that we do. It's not that I don't want the games on Xbox, I want as many people as possible to enjoy these games in the same way I and so many others have been able to. But if I'm thinking objectively here as far as which platform is the easiest to cut from the Japanese market's perspective, Xbox is by far the easiest. It's no contest. You know what, on second thought, I take back what I said about an Xbox version being the easiest topic to tackle. That could at least be given the benefit of the doubt due to not being 100% up to date on Zero ZX's sales numbers. The matter of side games, on the other hand, yeah, no. If you were expecting Battle Chip Challenge or, God forbid, Network Transmission, I'm not sure what to tell you. None of the Legacy collections thus far have included side games, and we had zero reason to believe Battle Network would be the series to break that mold. Unfortunately, that logic also applies to enhanced re-releases, so no Double Team DS, and no Operate Shooting Star. Pretty convinced that game is gonna rot in Capcom Japan's vault forever at this point, right next to Investigations 2, and I'm not quite sure which one annoys me more. Full disclosure, basically all of the info referenced for this next topic comes courtesy of Prof9 on Twitter. He's a prevalent name in the Battle Network and Star Force modding communities, and his insight into all of this is, frankly, invaluable. I'll leave a link to the full thread on the topic in the description, so feel free to check it out. We'll be referencing it more than a little bit from here on out. The two big takeaways from this thread are that it's heavily implied that the Battle Network collection will be using emulation rather than natively porting all 10 titles, and that those versions will have high-quality assets overlaid on top of the games. The reasoning for the emulation theory is that all of the Battle Network games on GBA were written in assembly language, a relatively low-level programming language that interacts specifically with the hardware it was written for. That's also why an enhanced port like Double Team DS was possible, because the DS's architecture was similar enough to the GBA's, which was likely due to the system's GBA backwards compatibility. What points to the idea of overlaid assets, though, is, funny enough, the Chinese version. See, trying to shove Chinese characters in the original ROMs results in near illegible text. So if emulation is the only way they can bring the games to modern platforms, this seems like their only means of feasibly giving the games a Chinese localization. Though it's important to make the distinction that the overlaid assets present in the trailers was likely a proxy, a byproduct of sloppy editing rather than being representative of the final product's assets. This is especially evident when looking at the custom window in Battle Network 4, where the text "chip data transmission" consistently shifts out of place as the window closes in all three versions of the trailer, revealing the Japanese version underneath, and sometimes even clipping directly into the themed border. That might even suggest that the text present in the dialogue and folder are placeholders as well. It would even help to explain why the English shot of the folder in Battle Network 1 uses the EXE1 symbol for non-elemental chips, when that was retroactively changed to match the symbol used in EXE2 onward. I know Prof is currently of the belief that all of the games will be using the Japanese ROMs with overlaid translations, but I'm still not entirely convinced of that yet. I mean, if we get the JP ROMs, that means they'd have to address localizing stuff like the Count Boktai crossover in Battle Network 6, which I'd be all for, mind you, but I don't see that being the case. I'd be pleasantly surprised to be proven wrong, though. And now, finally, we come to what's probably the biggest concern for nearly all parties involved: the lack of any form of multiplayer or side mode equivalent. At face value, this is odd, both for a Battle Network release and a Legacy collection. In Battle Network's case, it's odd because it, and by extension Star Force, are the only series that care about multiplayer at all. But the argument could be made that if the games are being emulated, that pesky assembly language would cause logistical issues as far as getting online play implemented in a timely manner without Capcom bleeding development money. And I want to put extra emphasis on timely. I'm not saying that Capcom couldn't do it, because clearly the fans are one step ahead of them. But as far as I'm aware, the fans aren't being paid for that. The fans aren't tied down by the trappings of a business. You generally don't have unlimited development time because eventually, the top brass will want to pay off for all that money and manpower that was put in. As far as legacy collections go, not having a side mode confirmed in a series announcement trailer is literally unprecedented. Classics had Challenge Mode, X's had X Challenge, and ZRG's had Z Chaser, but Battle Network just has the standard Gallery Mode and Music Player. Combine that with the current label of one player on the game's product information, and I can understand why people would be concerned. That's not to say I have no reservations about it myself, but I didn't use the wording at face value earlier for no reason. Yes, this is a first for these collections, but that's not the only way this announcement differs from the others. Battle Network is the first of its kind whose reveal lacks both a finalized ESRB rating and a narrowed down release window. The only other one that didn't get a release date right off the bat was the first Classic Collection, and even it got a this summer and this winter of 2015 in the video description for its respective platforms. The gap between now and 2023 is substantial, at least substantial enough for them to clean up the base games as to look more presentable, but ideally it'd be ample time to work out the details for a side mode that could take the place of the original PvP. Because I do think that they'll try to re-implement that in some capacity. At the risk of sounding like a broken record, net battling and the connections between players are big aspects of the series, and the heads of the project have to know that. As for what approach they'd take though, I honestly couldn't tell you. They could lean in a Wily Tower or X Challenge direction and give you access to chips from across the entire series to build folders with. I've considered the possibility of turning it into a pseudo-fighting game where all playable Navis in the series are selectable with their own preset folders, or even something simple as a Battle Network 6 focused PvP with all the Navi-cust programs, battle chips, and crosses unlocked. Again, nothing concrete, but I like to dream at least a little big, you know? I think you know where I'm going with this though, and try not to be too shocked. The irony of telling people to try and be patient 2 Battle Network videos in a row isn't lost on me, I assure you, and a chunk of this is definitely an amalgamation of cope, hope, and dreams on my part. But so were my expectations for this collection happening at all, and we know how that turned out. With what we know, after seeing all the footage, screenshots, and the websites, it's pretty clear that this compilation is nowhere near as close to done as you might initially assume. But despite that, I don't mind it that much, because realistically, the biggest hurdle for a lot of people was just knowing that we were getting the damn games. With Capcom's track record, even a normal amount of downtime for other series can feel like an eternity for Megaman, because we've been conditioned to think in the back of our heads, what if they just forgot him again? Most people, hell, I'd wager most Battle Network fans aren't psychotic enough to run through all of the pre-release material with a fine-tooth comb and pluck out all the ugly bits. Most people just need a confirmation that the collection is happening, and they're sold. When the latency issues of the X collection soured things a bit, the ZRG collection clearly showed some intent to improve upon that. To a certain extent, they've clearly proven themselves to want to meet fan expectations and act on the criticism from previous releases if possible. So in a similar vein, I can't imagine that they'd suddenly skimp out on what is clearly one of the series' most popular incarnations. Whether you have that degree of faith in them is your call, and I'm by no means saying that you need to. It's completely valid for people to be doubtful of the company given what they've done with the IP in the past. Everyone has their own tolerance levels for that sort of shit, and under no circumstance will I say that you should let them settle for less when they're capable of more. But I'm personally not that worried, and playing the waiting game is hardly a foreign concept to me. I've waited 7 years for this collection to be announced. I've waited almost 10 for my favorite TCG to get a video game localized, and I waited nearly my entire life to get the third numbered entry in one of my favorite series. I can wait one more year to see where all the chips fall. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you. It means a lot that you were willing to sit through all the way. If you enjoyed your time, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd leave a like and a comment to aid in my eternal struggle with the YouTube algorithm. And if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, you might even consider subscribing and ringing that vile bell icon so YouTube can probably notify you when I will content into existence. I'm also fairly active on Twitter at ZRV Gaming, where I yell about not only video games, but TCGs as well, primarily Cardfight Vanguard and Yu-Gi-Oh! So feel free to follow me there for ramblings and updates alike if you feel so inclined. Thank you again so much for watching, and have a good one.